My name is Caroline, and the day my parents showed up uninvited to my promotion celebration, after missing my wedding entirely, I stood in my driveway with my keys in hand and said 5 words that had been building inside me for 3 years. You weren't invited. Please leave. The silence that followed was so thick you could taste it. My mother's face went white, my father's jaw clenched, and behind me, gleaming under the California sunset, sat my brand new Guards red Porsche 911 Carrera, a $135,000 monument to every moment they told me I'd never be enough. Have you ever been invisible to the people who were supposed to see you first? Let me back up. I grew up in a house where love had conditions. My older brother Marcus was the golden child. Varsity quarterback, valedictorian, Yale graduate, corporate lawyer. Everything he touched turned to applause. I was the accident baby, born 7 years later when my parents had already allocated all their dreams to someone else. They never said it out loud, but I felt it in every school play they missed, every birthday dinner cut short for Marcus's events, every time my mother introduced me as our daughter, with the same enthusiasm you'd use to describe a dental appointment. When I got into UCLA for engineering, my father said, "Well, that's nice," and went back to reading Marcus's latest case brief. When I graduated summa cum laude, they came to the ceremony but left early to catch Marcus's firm's cocktail party. When I landed my first job at an aerospace startup in Pasadena, my mother asked if I was sure I wouldn't rather do something more feminine like teaching or nursing. I smiled through all of it. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was building my own life. Then I met David. He was a senior systems architect at my company. Brilliant, kind, thoughtful in ways that made you forget the world could be cruel. He noticed things. The way I took my coffee, the books on my desk, the fact that I went quiet when my phone rang, and it was my parents calling to ask if I'd heard about Marcus's latest accomplishment. 6 months into dating, David looked at me over Thai takeout and said, "You know you're extraordinary, right? Not in spite of them. Just you." I cried that night. Real, ugly, grateful tears. We got engaged 14 months later. I was 26, head over heels, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was the protagonist of my own story. I called my parents to tell them. My mother answered. I could hear the television in the background, some home renovation show she was obsessed with. "Mom, I'm engaged." "Oh, that's wonderful, sweetheart." "Hold on. Richard, turn that down. Sorry, what did you say?" "I'm engaged. To David. We're getting married next June." "June? That's Marcus's busy season. You know he's up for partner next year." That should have been the warning sign. But I pressed on. I sent them the date. June 14th. I sent the venue details. I asked my mother if she wanted to help me look at dresses. She said she was redecorating the living room and didn't have time, but maybe we could do it later. Later never came. The wedding planning became a solo mission. David's family embraced me like I'd always been theirs. His mother cried when I showed her my dress. His father gave me a family heirloom bracelet. My parents sent a card saying they'd try to make it, but Marcus had a huge case going to trial, and they might need to be there for support. 2 weeks before the wedding, I called them one last time. "We're finalizing numbers," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Are you coming or not?" My father cleared his throat. "Caroline, you have to understand. Marcus is under tremendous pressure. Your mother and I need to be available in case." "In case what? In case he needs you to hold his hand while he does his job? I'm getting married, Dad, once. This happens once. Don't be dramatic. We'll visit afterward. You'll still be married then." I hung up. I didn't cry. I just felt empty. The wedding was beautiful. David's parents walked me down the aisle together. My best friend Jen was my maid of honor. We danced under string lights and ate cake, and I married the love of my life surrounded by people who actually wanted to be there. When someone asked about my family, I smiled and said they couldn't make it. I didn't elaborate. What was there to say? We honeymooned in Italy. When we got back, there was a card in the mail from my parents. A generic congratulations card with a $50 check inside like I was graduating 8th grade. No note, no apology, just their signatures. That was the moment something in me crystallized. I stopped calling. I stopped sending updates. I stopped existing in their orbit, and here's the thing. They didn't notice. Weeks turned into months. Radio silence. It was almost funny, in a way that makes you laugh so you don't scream. I was relieved and heartbroken in equal measure. Meanwhile, my career was taking off. The aerospace startup I worked for had developed a revolutionary propulsion system, and I was leading the software integration team. I was good at my job, better than good. I was the person they called at 2 in the morning when something broke. I was the one who could see problems 3 steps ahead. And I was the one who caught a critical design flaw 6 months before launch that would have cost the company $40 million and possibly lives. My CEO, a brilliant woman named Rebecca Chen, called me into her office the day after I'd submitted my report. I thought I was in trouble. Instead, she offered me a promotion to Senior Director of Engineering and a salary that made my 22-year-old self's head spin. The equity package alone was worth more than my parents' house. "You saved this company," Rebecca said. "You're not just smart, Caroline. You're the kind of smart that changes trajectories. Don't ever let anyone convince you otherwise." I bought the Kia Porsche 3 days later. Not because I needed it, not because I was trying to prove anything, but because for the first time in my entire life, I could have something beautiful and powerful in mine, and I didn't need anyone's permission. I walked into that dealership in Newport Beach, pointed at the guard's red 911 sitting in the showroom, and said, "I'll take it." The salesman asked if I wanted to sit in it first. I smiled. "I've already decided." I drove it home with the windows down and music up, and when I pulled into my driveway, David and I had just bought a house in Altadena, mid-century modern with mountain views. I sat there for 10 minutes just looking at it. This car cost more than my parents had spent on my entire childhood, and I'd earned every penny of it myself. David came out, shaking his head with that amused smile he gets. "You actually did it." "I actually did it." "How does it feel?" "Like freedom." I didn't post about it on social media. I didn't send pictures to anyone. It was mine, this quiet victory. But apparently, someone from my hometown saw me driving it. Small world, smaller minds. They must have told someone who told someone, because 2 weeks later my phone rang. "Mom," I almost didn't answer. But curiosity got the better of me. "Caroline, sweetheart, how are you?" Sweetheart. I couldn't remember the last time she called me that. "I'm fine, busy." "We heard you got a new car, a Porsche? That's so exciting." My hand tightened around the phone. "Yeah, a few weeks ago." "Well, we'd love to see it. And you, of course. We haven't seen you in so long. Why don't you come by this weekend? Marcus will be here too. It would be so nice to have everyone together." Everyone together. Like we were a functional family. Like they hadn't missed my wedding. Like the last 3 years of silence had been mutual instead of one-sided. "I'll think about it," I said and hung up. David found me sitting on the back patio staring at the mountains. "Your mom?" "Yep." "What did she want?" "To see the Porsche. And me. In that order." He sat down next to me, took my hand. "What do you want to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? Part of me wanted to ignore them forever. Part of me wanted to show up and make them feel small. But there was another part, a part I wasn't proud of but couldn't deny, that wanted them to see exactly what they'd missed. "I want them to know," I said quietly. "I want them to see who I became without them." "Then let's throw a party." I looked at him. "What?" "You got promoted. That's worth celebrating. Let's have people over. Friends, coworkers, neighbors, a real party. And if you want to invite your parents, invite them. Let them see your life. Let them see what they weren't part of." It was perfect, perfectly petty and perfectly justified. I sent the invitation via email. Casual, breezy. "Hi, Mom and Dad. I got promoted to senior director at work, having some people over to celebrate Saturday the 18th, 4 p.m. You're welcome to come if you're free. Caroline. They RSVP'd within an hour. We'll be there. Can't wait to see you. So proud. So proud. The words felt like sandpaper. The party came together beautifully. Jen helped me organize everything. We had it catered. Nothing crazy, but nice. Good wine, good food, good people. Colleagues who respected me. Neighbors who'd become friends. David's family, who'd become mine. Our house looked beautiful. I looked beautiful. I wore a simple black dress and my grandmother's pearls and felt like exactly who I was. Successful, loved, and whole. My parents arrived 30 minutes late. I watched from the living room window as they pulled up in my father's aging Lexus. They stood in the driveway for a moment, staring at the house, the cars, the life I'd built. My mother was overdressed, cocktail attire for a backyard party. My father wore a suit. They looked uncomfortable. Good. Marcus wasn't with them. Apparently, he'd had something more important to do. Shocking. The doorbell rang. David squeezed my shoulder. You've got this. I opened the door with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Hi? Caroline. My mother moved in for a hug. I allowed it, stiff and brief. Your home is gorgeous, and look at you. So sophisticated. Sophisticated. Like I was a stranger she was meeting at a gallery opening. My father nodded. Good to see you, kiddo. Kiddo. I was 29 years old, a senior director at a major aerospace company, and he called me kiddo. Come in, I said. I gave them the tour because it felt like the thing to do. They oohed and awed over the kitchen, the view, the finishes. My mother kept touching things. Countertops, throw pillows, picture frames. Like she was appraising the house for resale. When we got to my office, she paused at the bookshelf where I kept my diplomas and awards. You've done very well for yourself, she said, and it sounded like an accusation. Thank you. We always knew you were smart. Did you? I wanted to ask. Did you know when you missed my robotics competition in 10th grade? Did you know when you forgot my college graduation dinner? Did you know when you chose not to come to my wedding? But I just smiled and led them back outside. The party was in full swing. Rebecca was there, holding court with some of my team members. David's parents were laughing with our neighbors. Jen was mixing drinks and playing hostess like the angel she was. Everyone was relaxed, happy, celebrating. My parents stood near the edge of the patio looking lost. I should have felt bad. I didn't. Rebecca spotted me and waved me over. Caroline, come here. I want to toast you properly. She clinked her glass and the conversations quieted. Everyone, if I could have your attention for a moment, I want to say a few words about our guest of honor. Caroline joined our company 4 years ago as a junior engineer. In that time, she's become absolutely indispensable. She's brilliant, she's dedicated, and 6 months ago, she literally saved our flagship project, and probably the company, by catching a flaw that everyone else missed. She's the kind of person you want in your foxhole. So please join me in congratulating her on her very well-deserved promotion to Senior Director of Engineering. The applause was genuine, warm. People cheered. David whistled. I felt my face flush with pride and gratitude. Rebecca raised her glass. To Caroline, may this be just the beginning. To Caroline! I caught my mother's face in the crowd. She looked stunned. My father was clapping slowly, mechanically, like he was processing something he couldn't quite believe. After the toast, people came up to congratulate me one by one. I hugged colleagues, thanked friends, accepted compliments with grace I'd learned to cultivate on my own. My parents stayed on the periphery watching. Finally, my mother approached. That was quite a speech. Rebecca's generous. Senior director. That's really impressive, Caroline. Thank you. We had no idea you were doing so well. And there it was. The truth underneath everything. They had no idea because they'd never asked. They'd never called to check in. they'd never wanted to know until there was something worth knowing. "Well," I said lightly, "a lot has happened in the last few years." My father joined us, drink in hand. "Your boss seems to think very highly of you." "She does." "And this house, you and David bought this yourselves?" "We did." "Must have cost a fortune." "We've done well." He looked around, and I could see him calculating, appraising, trying to reconcile the daughter he'd ignored with the woman standing in front of him. "And the Porsche," my mother said, unable to help herself. "Can we see it?" Of course. The Porsche. The only reason they'd remembered I existed. Sure. I led them to the driveway. The 911 sat there gleaming, perfect, powerful. My mother actually gasped. "Caroline, this must have been so expensive." "It was." "And you bought it yourself?" "I did." My father walked around it slowly, like he was inspecting a museum piece. "This is a serious car." "I know." "You always were smart with money," my mother said, scrambling for some thread of connection, some way to claim credit for who I'd become. That's when something inside me snapped. "No," I said quietly. "You don't get to do that." They both turned to look at me. "Do what?" my mother asked. "Act like you were part of this, any of this. You weren't." My father's expression hardened. "Caroline, you didn't come to my wedding." My voice was steady, but I could feel tears threatening at the edges. I refused to let them fall. "I got married 3 years ago, and you didn't come. You chose Marcus's case over my wedding day. You sent a card with a check like I was a distant cousin you barely knew. We explained that Marcus was under tremendous—" "I don't care about Marcus." The words came out sharper than I intended, but didn't pull them back. For once, for one single day, I needed you to care about me more than you cared about him, and you couldn't do it. So I stopped trying, I stopped calling, I stopped existing in your world because I was tired of being invisible. My mother's eyes widened. "You're being unfair." "Am I? When was the last time you called me before you heard about the car? When was the last time you asked how I was doing, what I was working on, if I was happy?" Silence. "You don't know anything about my life. You don't know that David and I tried for a year to get pregnant and had a miscarriage last fall. You don't know that I won an industry award in March. You don't know that we're thinking about adopting. You don't know me, and you didn't want to until you saw something worth showing up for." My father's jaw was tight. "We're your parents, Caroline. We've always wanted what's best for you." "No, you wanted me to be easy, to not need anything, to quietly succeed without requiring your attention." "And I did that. I became successful and happy and whole without you. But now you see the car and the house and the title, and suddenly I'm worth your time." "That's not fair," my mother whispered. "You're right. It's not fair. It wasn't fair that you missed every important moment of my life. It wasn't fair that I grew up feeling like I had to earn your love while Marcus got it for free. It wasn't fair that I begged you to come to my wedding, and you chose not to. So no, Mom, none of this is fair. But it's true." People were starting to notice. Conversations were quieting. I didn't care anymore. My mother's face crumpled. "We made mistakes, but we're here now." "You're here for the wrong reasons. You're here because someone told you I had a Porsche and you got curious about what else you might have missed. You're not here because you love me. You're here because you're finally impressed." "Caroline," my father started. "I need you to leave. We came all this way." "You weren't invited." I repeated the words I'd said when they first arrived, but this time everyone could hear. "This party is for people who've been part of my life. You haven't been. So I need you to leave." My mother looked at my father. My father looked at me like I'd struck him. But I stood my ground, heart pounding, hands steady. "You're really going to throw us out?" He said, "I'm really going to ask you to respect my boundaries for the first time in my life." They stood there for another beat, and I could see my mother wanting to argue, to justify, to make this somehow my fault. But David appeared at my side, solid and supportive, and I think they finally understood that I wasn't alone anymore. I wasn't the ignored little girl begging for scraps of attention. My father nodded once, stiff and cold. "Fine, if that's what you want." "It is." They walked to their car in silence. My mother looked back once, her face a mixture of hurt and indignation. I didn't wave. I didn't soften. I just watched them leave. As their Lexus pulled away, Jen appeared with a glass of wine. "You okay?" I took a shaky breath. "Yeah, I really am." David wrapped his arm around me. "That was the bravest thing I've ever seen you do." It needed to happen. Rebecca came over, concern in her eyes. "Everything all right?" "It will be." The party continued. People were kind enough not to ask too many questions. Someone turned the music back up. Laughter returned. And I stood there in my beautiful home with my beautiful life and my beautiful people. And I realized something profound. I didn't need my parents' approval anymore. I didn't need their validation or their belated pride. I'd built something real without them. And it was enough. More than enough. It was everything. That night, after everyone had gone home and David and I were cleaning up, my phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "Mom called. She's upset." "What happened?" I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I typed, "I told them the truth. If you want to know more, call me yourself. We haven't talked in 3 years either." He didn't respond. 3 days later, a letter arrived. My mother's handwriting. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity won. The letter was long, rambling, defensive. She was sorry I felt that way. She hadn't realized I was so sensitive. They'd always been proud of me, even if they hadn't shown it the way I wanted. Marcus had needed them more because he was under so much pressure. I was always so independent, so they thought I didn't need them as much. There was no real apology, no acknowledgement of what they'd actually done, just justifications wrapped in the language of regret. I put the letter in a drawer and didn't respond. Weeks passed, then months. The silence that followed was different from the silence before. This time, it was my choice. This time, I wasn't waiting for them to remember I existed. I was simply existing, fully and completely without them. My career continued to soar. David and I started the adoption process. We traveled, we laughed. We built a life so full of love and purpose that the hole my parents had left began to fill with something better. Chosen family, earned respect, and genuine connection. 1 year after the party, I got a call from my father. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Caroline." His voice sounded older, tired. I wanted to call and say, "I'm sorry." I waited. "Your mother and I have been talking a lot about you, about Marcus, about how we handled things. We got it wrong. We got you wrong." "Okay. I know one phone call doesn't fix 3 years, or 29 years, really. But I wanted you to know that we see it now. We see what we missed, and we're sorry." It was the apology I'd wanted for so long. But standing there in my kitchen, successful and loved and whole, I realized something. I didn't need it anymore. "I appreciate you saying that," I said carefully. "I do, but I need you to understand something. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. I can't have you in my life the way you want to be, because I don't trust that you won't disappear again the moment I'm not impressive enough." "We wouldn't." "You did. For my entire childhood. And then again, when it mattered most. I believe that you're sorry now, Dad. But I also believe that the moment I'm just regular Caroline again, not Senior Director Caroline with the Porsche, you'll forget about me." and I can't live like that. I won't. There was a long pause. What are you saying? I'm saying I forgive you, both of you, but I don't want a relationship with you. Not right now. Maybe not ever. I need to protect myself and the family I'm building. I need people around me who show up even when it's not convenient, even when there's nothing shiny to look at. And that's not you. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. I hope you and Mom are happy, I continued. I hope Marcus makes partner. I hope you have a good life. But I'm going to have a good life too. And it's going to be one I built on my own terms. Caroline. Goodbye, Dad. I hung up. David found me crying on the couch 20 minutes later. Not sad tears, relieved tears, free tears. You okay? He asked, pulling me close. I'm perfect. And I was. 2 months later, we brought our daughter home from the hospital. 8 pounds, dark hair, perfect in every way. We named her Grace because that's what she was. Unearned, unexpected, absolutely everything. I sent my parents a birth announcement. Simple, clean, no note, just the facts. Grace Elizabeth, born October 3rd, healthy and loved. They sent a card with a savings bond. No request to visit, no phone call. Just like always, something impersonal, something that required no actual presence. I put the bond in Grace's college fund and didn't think about it again. Marcus sent flowers. The card said, "Congratulations." Nothing else. But it was something. Maybe one day we'd talk, maybe not. I'd learn to be okay with maybe. My real family, David's parents, Jen, Rebecca, our friends, threw us a baby shower that filled our house with laughter and love. Grace was passed from arm to arm, cooed over, celebrated. This was family. This was what showing up looked like. On Grace's first night home, I sat in the nursery at 3 a.m, feeding her while the world slept. She looked up at me with those unfocused newborn eyes, and I made her a promise. I see you, I whispered. I will always see you. You will never have to earn my attention or my love. You will never be invisible to me. And if you ever need me, for anything, for everything, I will be there. Not because you're impressive or because you achieved something worth bragging about, but because you're mine and I'm yours, and that's all that matters. She fell asleep in my arms, tiny and trusting and perfect. The Porsche sits in our garage now, next to David's practical SUV and the minivan we bought for Grace's car seat. I still drive it sometimes, when I need to remember what freedom feels like. But it's not about the car anymore. It never really was. It was about realizing that I didn't need my parents to see my worth for it to be real. I didn't need their approval to be successful. I didn't need their presence to be loved. I needed to see my own value, build my own family, and create my own definition of enough. And I did. Last week, I got another letter from my mother. I haven't opened it yet. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. The difference is it doesn't keep me up at night anymore. Their absence doesn't leave a hole. I filled it with something better. Grace is 18 months old now, walking, babbling, curious about everything. She points at the Porsche sometimes and says, "Broom, broom," and it makes me laugh every time. One day, I'll tell her the story of how her mom bought a sports car and threw a party and finally stood up for herself. One day, I'll teach her that you can love people and still protect yourself from them. That forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation, that you can be kind without being a doormat. But for now, I just watch her explore the world with fearless joy. And I'm grateful. Grateful for the parents I found in David's family. Grateful for the friends who became family. Grateful for the career I built on my own merit. Grateful for the man who loves me exactly as I am. Grateful for the daughter who will never know what it feels like to be invisible. The revenge wasn't the car or the house or the title. The revenge was becoming someone I'm proud of without them. The revenge was building a life so full of love that their absence stopped hurting. The revenge was realizing that the best way to win against people who never saw your value is to see it yourself and live accordingly. My name is Caroline, and I don't need anyone to remember I exist because I never forgot. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't making them sorry. It's becoming so complete without them that their apology no longer matters.